Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of This Organized Life. I am your host, Lori Plow, and I am super excited to share today's guest with you. Joining me today is Dr. Sasha Shillcutt, and she is a renowned cardiac anesthesiologist, a gender equity expert, a TEDx speaker, and CEO of Brave Enough, where she leads over 20,000 women on living connected and courageous lives. Sasha has spent 2020 coaching tens of thousands of women through the unwanted but very real emotions of the global pandemic. She's been on the front lines, and from physicians to teachers, executives, furloughed employees, dealing with losing their careers and many people losing their lives. She's found that the same common threads are among all of them: loneliness, boundaries, trying to juggle work-life balance. She's also an author. She wrote the book Between Grit and Grace, and she hosts a podcast called Brave Enough. On top of all of this, she was kind enough to carve out time to come on our show just to talk about her life, all of her missions work, and how she is inspiring other people through these crazy times. So without further ado, allow me to welcome Dr. Sasha Shillcutt to the show.
Thank you, Lori. I'm really excited to be on your show today and to chat with you and all your listeners.
Awesome. So I gave them a quick summary of your very impressive bio, but I'm hoping in your own words you could just unpack a little bit about who you are and what you do.
So as you said, I'm a physician, I'm a cardiac anesthesiologist, and I'm also a mom of 4 kids, and I am an author. But I would say that the majority of, the first 10 years of my career, I identified my sole identity was in being a doctor. And that led me to a place of significant workplace burnout in 2013. I felt like I was failing at work. I was failing as a mom. And after trying to, putting in probably hundreds of thousands of hours and dollars into becoming a physician, I wanted to quit. I wanted to walk away from it. And that really scared me. It was a wake-up call. I was very emotionally depleted. And while I looked good on paper, inside I was quite a mess. And so from 2013 to 2014, I rebuilt myself and really did a lot of internal work, got really significantly real and honest with myself and my overcommitments and overachievements and my why. I defined my why. And then at the end of that year, I felt a lot better. I was healthier mentally, physically. My relationships were stronger with my family, but I was incredibly lonely, Lori. I was very isolated because I had really neglected friendships or relationships with other women in the middle of trying to build a career and become a mother. And so I started a small text group where I sent out a bat signal and said, "Hey, do you want to be my friend?" to about 9 women. And they said,
Which is not
"Sure."
easy to do. Which is not easy to do.
No, it's not. It's not at all. So that text group actually became a Facebook group, which now has 13,000 women doctors in it. And then I started my company, Brave Enough, because really I realized that the things facing women physicians were facing women teachers and women lawyers and women entrepreneurs and women in business. It doesn't really matter what you do. We share more struggles and similarities than we're different. And so that's when I started my company, Brave Enough, which resulted in a book and conferences and classes online that I teach women how to set boundaries and really take back control of their life.
I love it. And I actually watched your TED Talk the other day. In preparation for our interview, I was like, I want to check it out. And I loved it. Can you talk a little bit about that, how that came about? And because I think we're going to link to it in our show notes. Everyone knows this, but just what you were talking about. I mean, not the personal story of, what happened to you, and we'll let our listeners go and listen for themselves. But just the theme of striving for perfection and all of that, I think, is so relatable to so many people. So can you just talk a little bit about that, how that all came about?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny that probably the thing that I have the biggest platform on is my failures. I always say, like, it's a really good measure of how far I've come with my own kind of perfection struggle. I think that when you are a woman, especially who is in a male dominated career, you are really afraid to ever to fail or to express any failings or lack of confidence or lack of or your imperfections. And what happens to me was I was striving so hard to become a leader and to really be in an environment which was mostly men, that I didn't feel like I could be my authentic self, and I surely didn't feel like I could be vulnerable or express any frustrations or struggles or challenges or obstructions in my day, which really made me kind of build this facade and this wall around myself of perfection. And as you know, it's a constantly moving goal, right? Like, you're never going to reach perfection. So it leaves you at the end of every day or a friendship feeling less than. And I think that added to my isolation from other women, because I didn't know how to, be vulnerable with other women without feeling like I was going to be judged. Or in the workplace, I was really afraid to do that. And then I, suffered a significant professional failure that made me have to get really intentional with how I addressed my perfectionism, and that perfectionism was paralyzing me. It wasn't actually bringing me joy and success. And so I had to do a lot of thought downloads. And then I started talking about failure in medicine, in healthcare, which nobody really does, because that's not something we're proud of or we, promote. Our whole goal is to heal people and to do it perfectly. And so once I started talking about that in medicine, it just became this kind of really great conversation in other industries. And that's kind of how I started to be defined in my role in medicine, and also as a leader, and also as an author. And so I talk a lot about it in my TED Talk.
It's great. And I love how, when you said, you're defined by your failures, I think failures make us relatable. They bring this level of, oh, I'm not the only one, because so many of us look at what we see out there and just tell ourselves these false narratives of, I'm not going to be as skinny as she is. My house isn't going to be as organized as hers. I'm not going to be as successful. Look at all this, she's going, now we're in COVID times, but it's like, she's traveling, she's doing this person's doing that. And again, we're seeing the best of what people are choosing to share in the narrative that they're choosing to share it. And all we do is look at ourselves and where we don't feel that we're measuring up. And so I think when you have somebody, especially somebody that is deemed like somebody who does have it all together and has reached this plateau of professional status and mother and blah, 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 and you admit some vulnerability, that just has a huge power for women. And that's really what our platform is all about, is to say, we're all human and we all are struggling different places. And, what some people's gifts are other people's, not everybody has the same gifts. So talk to me a little bit about, before we go into your book and your community, how did you as a mother kind of juggle this high pressure career? You're a cardiac anesthesiologist. Like, that's just not a 9-to-5 standard job. Like, you're literally responsible for people's lives. Talk about how that pressure was for you, or is for you, as a mom, as a wife, as a friend.
Yeah. So great question. And probably the biggest question I get from people that I meet, women that I meet, they want to talk to me about that, because I think that I always preface the answer by saying I don't have it all figured out. I'm still a work in progress. I'm still a mom that's trying to show up at every stage of my kids' lives as what they need, and also, not overparent or underparent. I think we're constantly asking ourselves those difficult questions. And a lot of us, if we think about it as women, we make choices for ourselves when we're 18 years old, and we pick our degree, or we pick our spouse, or we pick what we're going to study or what we're going to do. And we know most of us aren't thinking about being a mother at that stage. And then we get to the point where we start to advance in our career, perhaps, or we finish that degree, or we start to develop that business. And then all of a sudden we're like, wait a minute, where does having a family fit into this? Like, how do I do this? So I think that was definitely me. I remember thinking like, okay, I need to have kids. Like, I don't know how to work this into my career, and how am I going to do this? Because I'm tired and I don't have kids. So how am I going to, introduce this whole other element to my life? And I think, like anything, you figure it out as you go. You fail as you go. I think for me, I have learned, specifically in the last 7 years, that I have to get really intentional with my time management and my boundaries and who I can help, because I tend to want to help everyone. I tend to want to defend everyone. I'm an Enneagram 8. And so I am like,
me
I'm
too.
like the person. Oh yeah. I knew you were after I stalked you on Instagram. I could tell you were an 8 from your post. So I was like, I always want to help people and defend people. I'm a social 8, so I want to go in and fix things and like stand up for everybody and justice. And at the end of the day, if you do that to every person in your view, you will be, as you probably have experienced too, Lori, you'll be completely empty and burned out. And you'll have nothing to give to the people who live with you and who you're responsible for. So I've had to really learn that there's only so much of my energy and so much of me, and I have to get extremely intentional with time management. I typically plan my week on Sundays and sit down and go like, what can I do this week and what can I not do this week? And how do I need to adjust my own priorities of what success is going to be for me this week? And not, give myself a list of 20 things, but maybe 3 things to accomplish every day. So those are some of the challenges that I think most women face, right? We're constantly, if we may be really in a successful season in our career, and then we go, oh my gosh, but I haven't made Christmas cards yet. Well, we're constantly feeling like we're not measuring up. And for me, looking back, I've realized the more successful I am, it's because I give myself more grace. And I go, I'm doing this at work. This is not the year for a Christmas card. It's just not going to happen.
I like people, like, if you could see my mouth right now, I'm not doing, this is the first year I'm not doing Christmas cards. I couldn't do it. I swear. I said, I'm done. And we've been very blessed, like all things considered with the pandemic. We've been healthy and fortunate and all the things, but like, I'm done. I'm mentally done. I'm like tapped out. I'm like, if you follow me on social media, you'll see what we look like. Otherwise, peace out. I'll catch you next year, and I'm okay. And I had to like, just be okay with that. Cause I was like, who am I doing this for? And I think for so many women, when you're looking at, again, whether it's you're looking at your house or you're looking at, your car, or you're looking at your career, or whatever, it's like, what's your why? Why are you doing this? Like, am I sending a Christmas card out so that I can say I sent out a Christmas card? Or like, do people really care? Half the stuff that I think we as women worry about, nobody's thinking about us. We're thinking about us, like nobody cares.
I know. Well, even coming on this show today, I was like, okay, I got to make sure that everything behind me looks organized, because I'm talking to like the queen of organization. She's going to be like looking, and I'm sure you're like, I didn't even notice what's behind you.
No, it's true. It's true. We tell ourselves these stories. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll come back. I want to talk about your book. I want to dive right into the book and learn all about it. So sit tight. Okay, Sasha. So I love the title of your book, first of all. It's for those of you who it's called, wait, time out. Is it Through Grit and Grace? I just have Grit and Grace. What is
Between Grit and Grace.
Sorry. Okay. Sorry there, Don. So I love the title of your book, Between Grit and Grace. And we will again link to that in our show notes. Adding author to the list. And I know what a big deal it is to write a book and the time and all of that comes with that. How did that come into the mix of all of the things that you were doing?
So I have always wanted to write. I've always loved to write. It's kind of been therapy for me. And I would say that there was a span of about 7 years early in my career having kids where I didn't write anything. I didn't even write a sentence in my journal. And I look back and I realized like how empty I was and how tired and burned out I was. So writing has always been a therapy for me. I think the book came about because after talking to thousands of women in my group, after, speaking to thousands of women, I see how women get put in boxes. Like, this woman is gritty. Okay, so you're an Enneagram 8. So you're probably like me. You probably get labeled like bossy, gritty, challenge, like you're coming out of the dugout, you speak your mind, right? But there's probably a very tender, soft side to you that is very grace giving. You care about people, you have empathy, and you like understand when people are hurting, you want to help them. And yet so often in society, because of our societal pressures, when we see a woman leading or when we see a woman speaking up, we kind of put her in this box over here, like, oh, she's competent, but I don't want to ask her to coffee. She wouldn't understand like my struggles. And then we have women on this spectrum who are those more grace-giving women that maybe they're behind the scenes. Maybe they're more helper. Maybe they're more collaborator teacher. And we see them and we're like, oh, she's a great woman. She's approachable, but she's not a leader. And so we put women in boxes according to their characteristics and actions, instead of going, you know what, as a woman, I'm never going to lead as a man. I'm going to speak authoritatively when I need to. And where my male partners at work, there's no repercussions. There's repercussions when I do that. At the same time, I have a very tender, soft heart. So I may cry with a patient's family before I take them to the operating room, knowing that may be the last time they see this person. And I get backlash for that. And the whole point of the book is, all women have some grace and some grit, and we're all on that spectrum. And it's not either or, it's who we were made, how we were created, and we need to embrace whatever margin of grit and grace you have as an individual woman to be that leader or that team builder or that collaborator or whatever it is you're supposed to be.
I love it. And I think it really resonates with so many people, because after a while of being told you're in a box, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Mm-hmm. And at least for me, I can only speak for myself, after, being told that you're overbearing or loud or bossy or whatever, after a while, you can start to start to wear that. And you're like, well, that's me. This is who I am. But like you said, that's a very one-dimensional part of who I am. And when we look at people through that particular lens, we're just leaving all of these other opportunities on the table. And I see it with people that I work with, and I'm sure it's in the women in your group, you see it too, like that they have so much more to offer than what is the first impression, perhaps.
Absolutely. And it's, it's really when you kind of do a deep dive and you start to do that internal work. And that's really what the book is about. So there's questions at the end of each chapter. There's questions throughout the book to make you stop and do like an internal reflection. And I did that because I think so many times we find ourselves frustrated as women in our workspaces or our communities in how we are perceived. And like, we do the whole replay at night, like, oh, should I have sent that email that way? Or was my tone too much? Or should I have spoken up or not spoken up? We kind of like do the replay. And sometimes I'll talk to my husband about it. And he's like, I don't ever do that. Why do you care? Why are you replaying your day? You know? And I realize it's because I'm a woman, and like the pressure to be a certain way is so strong on us. And I think it's an added tax that we don't even appreciate is there and so the book kind of breaks that down for you as an individual woman.
Without giving too much away, can you just give some specific maybe examples or strategies for people that might be sitting here listening going, oh my gosh, like this is me, you're talking to me, you know, what do people, you know, you've got people that are coming at it from all different perspectives, probably in all different seasons of life. Not everybody's a mom, not everybody has this big life or death job like you do, but we all struggle. We all have our own, you know, baggage that we've taken with us from childhood and into marriage or motherhood or wherever. Are there common threads between that you can say, like, this is someplace that you could start regardless of where you are?
Absolutely. This is a great question. And I think when women find themselves at the end of the rope, overwhelmed, exhausted, undervalued, it's typically because we are not living our priorities. So maybe your priority is to spend time with your family at dinner every night, or maybe your priority is to exercise every day, whatever your priority, one of your priorities is. And you are frustrated because you're not living those priorities. And you think, we go internal and go, what is wrong with me, right? But we don't know how to kind of stop to reevaluate what we're doing or what we're not doing, because we're so exhausted and tired and busy. It's like, who has time to do this internal work? I'd rather just scroll Facebook or watch Netflix or have, you know, a glass of wine or something. So the common thread that I see is that women don't have dedicated time every day for themselves, which I call breathing room or white space in their day, where they are unplugged, not responsible for anyone or any other human, even a pet. And they're sitting there and they're taking 20 minutes, 30 minutes to go, what is my pulse today? How are my thoughts? What is my plan for the week? When am I going? Why am I frustrated? Why am I having anxiety? Why am I stressed about this thing on Thursday? Because I overcommitted to it. Perhaps I need to take 5 minutes and say, I can't do this anymore. So the biggest thing that I do is tell women that they need time alone with themselves, every woman, because it's not that your life suddenly gets better in 30 minutes, but you have clarity. You're like stopping the replay, the scroll, the thoughts, the responsibilities that we have for every other beating heart in our midst. And we go, what's my own pulse? Where am I today? And when women start to routinely do that in my classes and courses, they're like, oh my gosh, now I can see. I have clarity that I'm not living my why. I'm not taking care of myself. I've overcommitted to things I don't even want to be doing just to check a box or please somebody. I've got to get this person out of my life who's toxic. I've got to leave this job that's toxic. I've got to stop this all or nothing thinking. I mean, there's so many things that you gain when you start spending time alone, which is the very opposite thing that you think you should do when you're so overwhelmed and busy.
I think it's fascinating because, and I love, you know, you call white space. I talk a lot about using the word margin. And I think ultimately it's like trying to build that margin in. And then my husband throws it back at my face and he's like, oh, when I'm like busy, and he's like, oh, where's your margin? But it's true. But I think we've normalized as a society this busy. We wear this busyness, this harriedness as a badge of honor. And it's like, I'm so busy, I'm so this. And in some ways it becomes, and I don't know, correct me if you feel otherwise, but I think it becomes I don't know if it's the word an excuse, but it's an easy out for us to avoid dealing with the stuff that we really need to deal with, because you have all of these external distractions. I have to get the kids here, I have to do this, I have to, you know, and even with COVID, we weren't allowed to go out as much, but we had all of these added things. Now we've got to distance learn our kids. Now my husband is working from home and I'm working from home. Now there's 10 more times more dishes in the sink because we're eating every meal at home. So even though our calendar may have lightened up from like extracurricular activities, it was just replaced with all of these other things. And now we're like confined to seeing it between four walls, and it's adding a whole other layer. So, I think it's making that intentionality, and it's, for a lot of people, present company included, it's easier said than done.
Absolutely. And I call it the martyr mom. Like we like just elevate women who don't put themselves first. It's like part of our society, like, oh, I did this for my kids, and then I did this for my work. And then, and what do we do to that woman? We like celebrate her. We like say, oh, you're an awesome person, and you're such a good mom. And at the end of the day, she may be super unhealthy because she's trying to live up to that standard. And I think we do it. I know I do it. I think I have to tell myself all the time that like my worthiness is not my to-do list. It's not how many things I can cross off and check off my list for the day. And I think we have to stop promoting the persona of the busy woman is the most amazing woman, instead of like pulling back and creating what you say, the margin, I call it white space, in your week for you, and knowing that by Wednesday I'm probably going to be really tired, so on Thursday I need to find an hour that I just keep open for myself, right? Like we don't do that. We don't teach women to do that, and we don't celebrate that as much as we do the busy mom who's running 1,000,000 miles an hour, never has time for herself.
I love it. And, I'm curious about, and I didn't even like prompt you for this, so I'm kind of going off script, but I want to just go back for a second and talk about like how you started finding your tribe, because I think there's a lot of loneliness that people feel, and isolation. And whether it's asking for help or physically like, hey, I need help with something, or just like I need somebody to like vent to about where I am in my life or my marriage, or I'm feeling like this as a mom or whatever. I think it's really hard to develop those relationships, especially as your kids get older. We go through different periods in our life where it's easier to make friends and then it's not. What can you share with our listeners on how to where to start to reach out to find those people, to like let them know that there's like a white flag that you might need help in a certain area? Because again, there's this t-shirt, you may have seen it like on Instagram or whatever, where it's like, it's fine, I'm fine, everything's fine. And I think we're all like, everything's fine, it's all good. When in reality, we're like drowning in a particular area. And yes. I think our women relationships are so important. And you've obviously built a community about that. I mean, that's your whole business. So can you just speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, so I really believe in community as the foundation of my business. And I have something called The Table. It's a membership, and you can join month to month, and we go on different topics and things. And the reason that I have that is because no one heals alone. Okay, you think you do. You might have told yourself that narrative, but if you look back at people who have overcome things, they heal in community. They heal by sharing their struggles or vulnerability with another person. That's how we heal. And so most women don't feel safe oftentimes to share those things, just throwing it out there. And we're so busy that it's not like we're seeing each other in the neighborhood or, sharing a cup of coffee. And so the great thing about an online community is that it can be a very safe place for women to come and go when they need, and to have that community foundation. Because what happens is they say, I'm struggling with this today. And all of a sudden 10 other women go, I'm struggling with that. So number one, it normalizes our challenges. And then there will be 10 more women who said, I was struggling with that last year and this is what I did. And now it's like you get peer coaching, you get affirmation and normalization of your struggles so you don't feel like something's wrong with you and you're the only person struggling with this. And you get encouragement and positivity. So while there are definitely, I think, some negative connotations to social media, I have this, I love my membership group, which is private, because it's something that women can come to when they need some advice on career or professional or personal life, and get it in a safe place. And that's how we heal. I heal. I go in there and I heal when I read things other people are posting and I go, oh, I need to change that thought about myself. You know, I'm okay at looking like I look today, or struggling with this today, or whatever it is.
I love it. I love it. I think it's great. And again, we'll link to that, because I think we do need connection from other people, and, community is a big foundation in my personal life, in my professional life. And again, I too have a love-hate relationship with social media, but it's been wonderful to be able to connect with people that might not be in your backyard, but yet you can turn to them. And so I love that you're doing this. Before we go to our last break, can you just let our listeners know where they can go to learn more about you, where they can find you, the book, your podcast, the membership group, all the things?
Yeah, so the easiest place to go is becomebraveenough.com. You can sign up for my Friday newsletter. I send out a little bit of inspiration and some just encouragement to women professionals on Fridays. You can find out how to join my membership group there, the book, the pod, all that kind of stuff. So that's the best place to go. Or you can find me on Instagram at Become Brave Enough.
Love it. We're going to be right back, and I'm just going to put you in the hot seat with our wrap-up questions. So sit tight. This has been such a great conversation. Thank you so much for your inspiration and words of wisdom. I just really love it. And I can't wait I'm going to go check out your membership group myself. So we always like to wrap our show up, because our show's all about honesty and authenticity. So as somebody who is a leader who inspires so many, I'm curious to know from you, what book or podcast has been impactful in inspiring you to make change, and something that it could be something old or new that is a good takeaway for you?
So one book that I use in my classes that I really encourage women to read is called The Confidence Code. You can listen to it on Audible. It's a great book on the science of confidence and how we build confidence as girls, in our youth, compared to how it changes as an adult. And it was so eye-opening to me, because it was like someone was in my brain. And so I don't think, if you look at my bio, you probably would think, well, she's very confident, but actually there's a lot of times I really lack confidence in things, and I have imposter syndrome. So I really love that book, and I encourage women to read it.
I love it. Thank you so much. I wrote it down. I always get such great suggestions from our guests. It's awesome. And then our last two questions that we ask all of our guests is, in this particular season of your life, where do you feel the most organized, and where do you feel like a little bit of a hot mess? And it could be physical stuff. It could be your calendar. It could be your car, whatever.
So I definitely feel most organized in an operating room. I have my little triangle of power where I have my anesthesia cart and all my meds and drugs and supplies. And so that's my happy place. And if somebody messes it up, I kind of want to scream. I would say I feel like a hot mess when I go into my pantry. I feel like no matter how hard I try to keep everything organized, and the cereal in this aisle and the pans aligned, nobody else cares. The other 5 people I live with could care less if the cereal is next to the rice. Oh. So I literally have to go in there and tell myself, you're just going in to get a granola bar. You're not going in here to clean, because I'll find myself 20 minutes later, like angry and like throwing stuff, The
struggle's real. The struggle is real. I hear you. Well, thank you for that. Well, again, thank you for joining us. If this is your first time tuning into our show, thank you so much. Don't forget to click the subscribe button. New episodes drop every single Thursday. If you're on social media, head on over to our Facebook group called This Organized Life Podcast. You can post your comments, your questions, or follow us all over social media on Instagram at Simply Be Organized. Until next week, I'm Lori Plow. Peace out.